there's a direct connection between Michael Saylor and President Bukele, because Michael Saylor's original base case for Bitcoin was, remember, he presented the melting ice cube. We've got cash on the balance sheet. Do we buy gold? Do we buy fiat money? No, we're going to buy Bitcoin because it's mathematically guaranteed to increase purchasing power over everything else. And so he gave a masterclass on economics and inflation and money printing and central banking. And this has been echoed now by President Bukele at CPAC this week. Gave the best speech, the most attention-grabbing speech, the most articulate speech. And the centerpiece of that speech was that money printing is bad, and we are escaping the money printers in El Salvador. And I think Stacy would agree with me. That was just a boffo performance.
That speech, I mean, watching just the clips, and I just retweeted it. I said, Bukele just explained MMT to America. I mean, he just, in the most succinct manner, he just said, look, tax is theft. If a government can print money, why does it need your taxes to pay for anything? And I was like, I remember I had MMT guys on my show 6-7 years ago explaining that to me. And I was like, wow, that's when it was before I got orange pilled, but I started to understand the crime of taxation. The MMT guys were like, we're not saying you should just print everything. But when the government says, oh, we don't have money for healthcare, we don't have money for schools, they're lying. They're lying to you that they can print whatever they want. And Bukele just said it like, bam. And it was almost like he shot a laser through everybody at that conference and went, oh.
Yeah, I'm sure the audience there, were probably surprised by that part of the speech because, the dollar, the ability to print it out of thin air does help anybody close to the printing press, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or New York City or San Francisco. They get access to the dollar first, very cheap. But I mean, I was so proud, really, to, call him my president, that he sounded so much like a Bitcoiner. And any sort of episode of the Keiser Report or Orange Pill podcast, he could have fit in exactly there to be printing, backing your currency with money you printed and printing more out of thin air. And just the delivery of it was just perfect. 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes, 36 seconds of just pure genius.
Yeah. Irony alert. For decades, America has been wagging their finger at Central America saying, you guys are into debt monetization. You're printing money and buying back your own debt. Well, who's the banana republic now, right? What President Bukele described was debt monetization being done in America on epic proportions, in the trillions and trillions. Exactly what they used to accuse Central America of doing and calling them despairingly, oh, you're a banana republic. Well, who is the banana republic now? You have El Salvador and Central America using Bitcoin as legal tender. They're building an entire economy on top of the Bitcoin as base layer. And the U.S. is drowning, Graham, in fiat money.
No, I mean, it's like we've talked about it and Bukele just basically said it. I mean, America is now becoming the third world country. America is becoming, the streets of America are looking, the last year I was living in LA, I was in Hawaii for 2 years and came back for a year ago. And that last year, 2023, I was like, every day I would see stuff. I go, this looks like third world country stuff. This looks like collapsing economy, banana republic, just some, tin pot dictator just printing money for his buddies and some corrupt third world country. I go, that's what America looks like. And really, it's like America, because it's so big, is like what America used to accuse Latin America of. All these different states and all these other little politicians are pretty corrupt. There might be a good politician here or there in this state or that state, but for the most part, the whole system is so corrupt that, the best you can do in America is find like the least corrupt politician, but the central banks and the two-party system is completely corrupt. The other thing that was so amazing to me is, when Bukele was scheduled to speak at CPAC, before he spoke, I was just talking to some Bitcoiners who were like, wow, CPAC, they're pretty conservative. And, Bukele is going to be probably more to the left of what the people at CPAC are. But I go, this is the beautiful message of Orange Pill, of Bitcoin. He can give that message. He could give that message at CPAC and it would resonate with the crowd. He could give that same message at the Green Party convention and they would all go, wow, it doesn't matter. The Bitcoin message of the corruption of the money printing system resonates anywhere and everywhere once you get it. And to see like some of the reaction videos, like interviews with people after CPAC who are just like, man, I had no idea because, Americans were all raised to believe the dollar is number one and we're number one. And he just went, no, not when you're printing it. And taxation is a lie. It's just like,
yeah, the meme that's so popular is, well, if you can just print money out of thin air, why am I paying taxes? Right? That's a meme that people have been talking about for years. And President Bukele said something very interesting and I think very provocative. He said, the reason you pay taxes is to create the illusion that you have a functioning government, to create the illusion that you have a functioning government. That's the reason you pay taxes. But there's nothing back behind that paper money but more paper. And then he went into talking about the fiat money Ponzi scheme farce. But essentially what they're saying, okay, right. And that's debt monetization. Right? That's the definition of debt monetization. We don't call it debt monetization in the United States because they call it instead something different. They call it quantitative easing. The reason they call it quantitative easing, and if you say, quantitative easing is the same as debt monetization, that's like, no, it's not the same because we plan to unwind quantitative easing someday. So it's not debt monetization. But of course, that day will never arrive. It's just debt monetization by a different name. But I thought was very key to me was that he outright said that American taxpayers are supporting the illusion of having a functional government. I mean, that's an incredibly powerful thing to say.
It was really because that's the thing. It really kind of, again, when I learned and I had a couple like MMT, modern monetary theory economists on my show, and that was the first sort of blowing my head open to like the whole system is corrupt, which was a pretty easy gateway then into Bitcoin. And all these Americans are sitting there going, well, first of all, even under your taxes fund the government thing, Americans were already like waking up to the fact of like, well, why am I paying taxes if my roads and schools, they're cutting arts programs at my schools, but we're sending money to Israel. They have free healthcare in Israel, and we're sending money to Ukraine and all of these wars. Americans were like, this already is that our tax dollars are going there. And now you're learning, oh, we don't even need to pay taxes. It's such a scam. Like it's like the levels of the scam that Americans have been fed is really coming undone. And it's the thing that you always say of, you can't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. And you're seeing like how this nation state stuff is starting to unwind.
Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to see, how the message from President Bukele resonates with other people in politics and other political leaders. Certainly Michael Saylor, his message of re-architecting the balance sheet and not carrying cash on your balance sheet. I was in the camp that thought that this would have a tremendous acceptance and pickup by other CFOs and CEOs, and you'd have a lot of companies. Warren Buffett announced this week that they have a record 176 billion, I think, on their balance sheet in cash, in fiat money. And, he's supposed to be, lauded for this for some reason, but that's dead money. And not only that, but it's losing, according to Michael Saylor's calculations, approximately 15% a year in purchasing power, the true rate of inflation, if you include asset price inflation. So, is that something that we should be applauding this guy for? Not really. So the cash on the balance sheet, to give an idea of cash, the taxes collected by the U.S. per year is roughly $3 trillion. And I think the country's got 34 trillion in debt unofficially, and another 60 trillion off balance sheet with Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. So it's almost $100 trillion in debt. And, they're saying, well, we pick up 3 trillion in taxes, but to President Bukele's point, that's really a drop in the bucket. If you look at the total size of the economy, the cash and the money printing itself, it's like saying that, you know, I hit the golf ball, you know, down the fairway. You know, I don't know what my analogy is. I was trying to get a golf analogy, but I failed miserably, Graham. So I'm going to just forget that analogy and just leave it at that. I'm just going to walk away from that analogy completely and just hope the audience will fill in their own analogy. So, my new app called Max Analogy Fill In. It just, whenever I stumble, you tap the app and it'll fill in some analogy from the past. Just any analogy will do. I don't need an original analogy. Just put everyone in there. It all works.
So basically, you want an analogy mulligan is what you're asking
I
for.
want an analogy mulligan, Graham. Yes.